Parshas Vayeshev. Parsha describes how Yosef's brothers were deciding to get rid of him. And originally they wanted to kill him. And Reuven saved him. And the Torah says, Vayishma Reuven, Vayetzilei mi'adam. Reuven heard, and he saved Yosef from their hands. Vayomer lo nakenu nafesh. And they said, we cannot smite this life. Vayomer lehem, and Vayomer lehem Reuven. Reuven said, Al tishbechu dam. Don't spill blood. Hashlicho salabora zeh asher bamidbar. V'yara tishchabo. Cast him into this pit that's in the desert, but don't harm him affirmatively. And then the Torah says, Lama'an hatzil osomi adam lashivo el aviv. It says, so that he may save Reuven, may save him, Yosef, and return him to his father, to Yosef's father. And Rashi says that this is the Torah commenting on what Reuven's motives were. It's very difficult for human beings to ascribe motivations. I mean, it's easy to describe motivations, but it's difficult to do it with accuracy, or at least with confidence that we are accurate. But the Torah can, and the Torah does in this case. The Torah says, Lama'an hatzilo somi adam lashivo leviv. Reuven did this in order to save him. So Reuven is the hero. Now there's a medrash that says that actually Reuven could have and would have done more had he only known. The question is, had he only known what? So this medrash shows up in a number of places. It shows up in Vyikra Rabbah, shows up in Shir Rabbah. In Vyikra Rabbah it says, Limdacha Torah derech eretz. The Torah teaches you the way you should act. When a person does a mitzvah, he should do it with a happy heart. That had Reuven known, that Reuven heard and he saved Yosef from his hands, from their hands, meaning from the hands of his brothers, then he would have loaded him onto his shoulders. He wouldn't have allowed the brothers even to cast him into a pit. He would have put him on his shoulders. And he would have marched him back to his father. In other words, Reuven could have done better had he known that the Torah was going to record his actions. It's perplexing. But not only that, it doesn't only say it about Reuven, but it says also about Ahron, that Ahron came out to meet Moshe, and it says that he was happy. And the Torah says, oh, he would have done more. He would have gone out with musical instruments. He would have had a whole celebration when he went out to see Moshe. And concerning Boaz, it says that Boaz gave Rus some kernels of roasted grain. And it says that had he known that his actions were recorded, he'd have given her fatted cows. And the question is, and we'll conclude with this, L'sha'avar, in the past, Haya Adam Osa Mitzvah, Vanavim Kosem Osa. Person would do a mitzvah, and the Nevi'im, whether it's Moshe Rabbeinu in the Torah or subsequent Nevi'im, would have written it as somebody did a significant act. But now, V'achshav she'ein Nevi'im, now we have no Nevi'im, so Mi Kosev Osa, who writes the actions of individuals, Eliyahu, Moshiach, V'akadosh Baruch Hu Chosem. And it's Eliyahu, Moshiach, and the Almighty seals, quoting a pasuk from Malachi, Oz Nidbru. So this is the medrash. So it's quite perplexing. And Rabbi Yaakov Kaminetsky asked the question. He actually quotes. He doesn't quote, but the note in the Sefer quotes a question that is raised by the Fei Toar, which is, what do you mean? We think Reuven did this for his kavod. He would have done better for his kavod had he known, I'm going to be recorded in the Torah. I'm going to do it even better. And Yaakov says that's not what it means. And it's not true about Ahron, and it's not true about Boaz. None of them would have improved their action. They could have improved their action, but it wouldn't have been because of kavod. So Yaakov Kaminetsky explains. He says that they did not understand, none of them, neither Reuven, nor Ahron, nor Boaz, understood the historical significance of their actions. So they did the right thing. But had they been aware of the impact of their action, they would have done even more. In other words, they simply didn't know what the impact of their actions would be. And you know what? That's not unusual. As a matter of fact, we've quoted this before. I heard from my Rabbi, Soloveichik, and he writes it in his in the logic of the heart and logic of the mind. That, quoting from also Yalkut Shimoni, that when Moshe Rabbeinu says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, either Hareini nas kvodecha or Hodini nas trachecha, tell me what you're all about. Explain to me how you act in this world. And the Almighty says, I'm going to cover you in this little cleft of rock, and I'm going to pass, and only after I pass, you'll see my back, but you won't see my face. And separately, he says, Lo Yirani Adam Chai, a person can't see my face and live. And Rav Ahron explains, according to the Medrash, that this means that it is impossible for a human being to fully grasp the significance of events as they are occurring, as they're happening in real time. Can't tell. Frequently, people prognosticate. They say, "Oh, this thing is irreversible. This is going to have long-term effects." And I remember hearing Shimon Peres say in the year 2000 that Aslo lo met, Aslo lo ulam lo yamut. Aslo is not dead. Aslo will never die. And people have there's a strong temptation to predict or to describe today the significance of events that are happening today on the future. And that's a very, very difficult task. It's very difficult to do it accurately. And that's because we're finite, and the number of variables that are in effect at any given moment in this world is immense, perhaps infinite. And we don't have the capacity to process that kind of information. So we can't tell the significance of events as they're happening. And the Medrash is saying, had Reuven understood the significance of events, he wouldn't just think, okay, I'm saving my brother, but that he's saving Klal Yisrael from Shibud Mitzrayim, from going down to Egypt, if that in fact would have been the case, who knows? Or Ahron, that he was fortifying the leader who would take the Jews out of Egypt, or Boaz, that he was feeding the ultimate mother, if you will, of Mashiach and David HaMelech. If you understand those things, you can't help but act in a different way. But they didn't know. They're human. They didn't know. So what do we do? So this is what the Medrash is saying. The Medrash is saying that you should do it b'leiv sameach. What's the it? Anytime you do a mitzvah. Anytime you do a mitzvah, you should do it b'leiv sameach. And in the Medrash in Shir Hashirim, in Rus, it says you should do it not b'leiv sameach. It is not the text, but it says b'leiv shalom, with a complete heart. In other words, do it all the way. Do it right. Why? So that's the conclusion of this Medrash. The Medrash says that let you not think that just because nobody's writing Kisvei HaKodesh anymore, nobody's writing the Chumash, nobody's writing Nevi'im, nobody's writing Sufim, that your actions don't have significance. Your actions have significance. Now, potentially, you could explain that to mean that your actions could have significance, but that is not how Rabbi Yaakov Kaminetsky reads this. Rabbi Yaakov Kaminetsky reads this is that anyone who does a mitzvah does an act that has ultimate and eternal significance, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu records it, which means that every mitzvah we do is of supreme significance. In this world, there are priorities and competing priorities, and sometimes we have to do one mitzvah and we're exempt from doing another mitzvah, but at the end of the day, when you do a mitzvah, you're doing an act that is so significant that, according to the Medrash, the Mashiach writes them down, and Eliyahu writes them down, because these are representatives of the eternal Jew. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Chosein, the Almighty, seals every mitzvah that's done, rises to the level of divine notice and divine approbation. The Almighty writes and records and approves and rewards every mitzvah. So the Medrash is telling us, according to Rabbi Yaakov, do that mitzvah with leiv sameach. Do it with a happy heart, because you know what can make a person happier than knowing that what you're doing has ultimate meaning. Have a good Shabbos.